The year 1937 stands as a stark reminder that history rarely offers a simple narrative. It was a year that encapsulated the duality of human experience, where progress and peril walked hand in hand. It was a year of profound contradictions, a time when the world witnessed both breathtaking leaps forward and devastating steps backward. The juxtaposition of innovation and conflict was stark and undeniable. As humanity celebrated marvels of engineering and the birth of new art forms, the shadows of war and oppression stretched ever longer. The Golden Gate Bridge stood as a symbol of human ingenuity, while Picasso's Guernica captured the anguish of a world in turmoil. From the battlefields of Spain to the skies above the Pacific, 1937 tested the resilience of the human spirit and revealed the fragility of peace. The conflict in Spain was a harbinger of the greater wars to come. This year was a juncture where the anxieties of the Great Depression intersected with the growing threat of global conflict. Political rallies and military parades highlighted the rising tensions and the desperate search for solutions. The aftershocks of the First World War continued to reverberate, while the seeds of the Second World War were being sown. Political speeches echoed the unresolved issues of the past and the ominous future that lay ahead. It was a time of uncertainty and fear, but also a time of resilience, innovation, and enduring hope. Communities came together, driven by a shared desire to overcome adversity and build a better future. The events of 1937 would echo throughout the rest of the century, shaping the destiny of nations and leaving an indelible mark on the collective memory of humankind. International expositions showcased the best of human achievement, even as political events hinted at the conflicts to come. To understand 1937 is to grapple with the complexities of a world on the brink of transformation. Diplomatic meetings and crowded city streets reflected a world in flux, teetering on the edge of monumental change. It was a year that defied easy categorization, a time when darkness and light intertwined in a tapestry of triumph and tragedy. Joyous celebrations were often overshadowed by the looming threat of war, creating a complex and multifaceted historical landscape. This is the story of that pivotal year, a year that continues to resonate with us today. The lessons of 1937 remind us of the enduring struggle between hope and despair, progress and regression. In the heart of Europe, the Spanish Civil War raged on, a brutal conflict that would become a testing ground for the ideologies and weaponry of the Second World War. This war was not just a Spanish affair, it was a precursor to the global conflict that would soon engulf the world. The war had begun in 1936, with a military uprising against the democratically elected Republican government. This uprising quickly spiraled into a full-scale civil war, dividing the nation into factions. General Francisco Franco, leading the nationalist faction, sought to overthrow the republic and establish an authoritarian regime. His vision was one of a Spain united under a single iron-fisted rule. What began as an internal struggle quickly escalated into an international conflict. Volunteers and ideologues from around the world flocked to Spain, seeing it as the front line in the battle against fascism or communism. Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, eager to expand their influence and test their military might, poured resources and manpower into supporting Franco's forces. Their involvement was a clear indication of the broader geopolitical stakes at play. The Soviet Union, meanwhile, provided crucial aid to the Republican government, seeing the conflict as a battleground against the rising tide of fascism. This support included not just weapons and supplies, but also military advisors and strategic guidance. The Spanish Civil War was a conflict marked by extraordinary brutality and suffering. Cities were reduced to rubble, and countless civilians were caught in the crossfire, enduring unimaginable hardships. Civilians were not spared from the horrors of war, as evidenced by the infamous bombing of Guernica, a Basque town razed to the ground by German and Italian aircraft in support of Franco. This attack was a grim foreshadowing of the aerial bombardments that would become commonplace in the Second World War. This devastating attack, immortalized in Pablo Picasso's haunting masterpiece Guernica, shocked the world and exposed the terrible human cost of modern warfare. The painting became a powerful symbol of the suffering and chaos wrought by war. The Spanish Civil War was more than just a regional conflict, it was a stark warning of the global storm that was gathering on the horizon. The international community watched with bated breath, aware that the outcome in Spain could have far-reaching consequences. The war's ideological battle lines, with democracy and fascism locked in a deadly embrace, foreshadowed the larger conflict that would soon engulf the world. The propaganda from both sides highlighted the deep ideological divides that were tearing Europe apart. The lessons learned in the trenches and skies of Spain would have profound implications for the course of the Second World War. Military tactics, strategies, and technologies tested in Spain would be refined and deployed on a much larger scale in the years to come. While Europe was consumed by the Spanish Civil War, a conflict that drew the attention of many nations and became a prelude to the larger global conflict that was to come, a conflict of even greater magnitude was unfolding in Asia. One that would have profound and lasting impacts on the region and the world. The Second Sino-Japanese War, which had begun in earnest with the Marco Polo Bridge incident in July of 1937, pitted the armies of Imperial Japan against those of the Republic of China. This incident marked the escalation of hostilities that had been brewing for years. This clash, fueled by Japan's expansionist ambitions and its desire for raw materials and resources, would become a defining chapter in the history of both nations. Japan sought to dominate Asia and secure the resources it needed to fuel its growing industrial base. Japanese forces, armed with superior firepower and driven by a sense of military superiority, made rapid advances into Chinese territory. Their strategy was to quickly overwhelm Chinese defenses and secure key cities and resources. Cities like Shanghai and Nanjing fell to the invaders, and with each victory, the human cost of the conflict grew more staggering. The fall of these cities marked significant turning points in the war, showcasing the brutal efficiency of the Japanese military. The Rape of Nanjing, a period of horrific violence and atrocity perpetrated by Japanese troops following the city's capture, stands as a grim testament to the war's brutality. Thousands of civilians were killed, and countless others suffered unimaginable horrors. The Chinese people, led by the nationalist government of Chiang Kai-shek and the communist forces under Mao Zedong, fought back with tenacity and courage. Despite their differences, these groups united against a common enemy, showcasing the resilience and determination of the Chinese people. Despite facing a technologically superior enemy, Chinese resistance remained fierce, and the conflict bogged down into a protracted and bloody stalemate. The war became a grueling test of endurance and willpower for both sides. The Second Sino-Japanese War would continue to rage for years, consuming countless lives and leaving an enduring legacy of resentment and distrust between the two countries. The devastation wrought by the war would shape the future of Sino-Japanese relations for decades to come. The war in Asia was not merely a sideshow to the conflict in Europe, it was a major front in a growing global conflagration. The events in Asia were deeply interconnected with the broader dynamics of World War II. The international community, preoccupied with the crisis in Europe, largely failed to intervene in the conflict, allowing Japan's aggression to continue unchecked. This lack of intervention highlighted the limitations of international diplomacy at the time. The Second Sino-Japanese War served as a tragic precursor to the wider Pacific War that would erupt in 1941. The conflict set the stage for the brutal and expansive battles that would soon engulf the entire Pacific region. In 1937, a bridge was more than just a structure. It was a symbol of hope and connection. Some say it was like stepping into a fairy tale, a world where dreams seemed just a little closer. Can you imagine that? A time when every arch and beam told a story of resilience and ambition. It's almost magical, isn't it? The bridge wasn't just a feat of engineering, it was a beacon of possibility, standing tall amidst the challenges of its time. In 1937, the world was gripped by both hardship and hope. The Great Depression continued to cast its long shadow, yet there were glimmers of resilience and determination. People found ways to endure and even thrive amidst adversity. Communities came together, supporting one another through the toughest of times. This era was a testament to the human spirit's unyielding strength and perseverance. The year also bore witness to one of the most tragic and unforgettable events in aviation history. On May 6, the German passenger airship LZ-129 Hindenburg caught fire and was destroyed during its attempt to dock in New Jersey. The disaster claimed 36 lives and marked the end of the airship era. The images and reports of the catastrophe shocked the world, leaving an indelible mark on the collective memory of humanity. 1937 also saw the mysterious disappearance of one of aviation's most iconic figures, Amelia Earhart. On July 2, during her attempt to circumnavigate the globe, Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, vanished over the Pacific Ocean. Despite extensive search efforts, no conclusive evidence of their fate was ever found. The mystery of Amelia Earhart's disappearance continues to captivate and intrigue, symbolizing the enduring allure of the unknown. As 1937 drew to a close, the world stood on the precipice of profound change. Political tensions were escalating, and the ominous clouds of conflict loomed on the horizon. Nations grappled with the challenges of a rapidly changing world, struggling to find a path forward. It was a time of uncertainty and anticipation as the world braced itself for the tumultuous events that lay ahead. The stage was set for a new chapter in history, one that would reshape the world in ways unimaginable.